So apparently if I want to monetize this, I shouldn't swear until at least the first 10 minutes are gone. Is that right? Anyway, welcome to How to JoW. Today we're going to explore the very basics of the user interface. So some features that have popped up in my various mad clickings, we can actually learn what they're all about. So let's open up a save. The always disappointing West Coast Wrestling Coalition. So let's look and see what we have to offer from all of these shiny buttons. The dashboard button is an obvious one that you open up with. It will take you back to, wait for it, the dashboard, which I've always explained has alerts for whatever might be happening to happen, talent requests, upcoming things such as our next call up in 2 months, any tasks that I've assigned to task members, or staff members. We'll edit that in post. We have any injured members, those that are unavailable for reasons that are not related to actual physical injuries. We've got Patty O'Hare and the big problem of Dan and Black Bear William, who are both out with kayfabe injuries. Kayfabe? You know, I never actually learned how to pronounce that correctly. Let's just say kayfabe for fun's sake. And there's the upcoming event. You can see the event effects that might be available. This particular event is potentially good benefit from an open challenge and a potentially bad benefit from a ladder match. There's the minimum number of matches you can have, the maximum number of matches, how many you have booked so far. There's the base hype for the event, and that'll affect the viewers, the buys, any fans that we might get. And that's all for this, and of course the actual date and time. The next button is the book button, and here's all the things you can do with a book button. You can book a segment, you can book a match, you can book a tag team match, you can auto book. If you happen to have that feature, you can choose to have the game book for you. So you can choose the quality of the booking. Quality can be quality, it can be standard, it can be long-term, it can be bizarro, and it can be terrible. And you'll notice the creative points for each of those varies. Let's say if we want to automatically book the scenario as this upcoming event is terrible, we can do that. Let's do the minimum auto or maximum amount of matches. Let's do the minimum amount, that would be 4. And there is 4 random terrible matches booked. Suppose you desire, I need more matches booked, so I'm going to book that again. Now you have 2 options. You can either replace the minimum matches that you've already created by doing this, and it'll ask you, are you sure? I'll say, yes, I'm sure. Or you can instead, with these 4 matches, you can go to add. You can't do minimum because it'll just book nothing. You could say, I'm going to auto book add. So instead of replacing the matches, it will add more matches to the ones you've already booked, and book that. And voila, there you have the additionally booked matches. Or you could instead opt to use the simulator, which will book the whole event and move on to the next event. And each event is considered a monthly event or a weekly show. So if you happen to have weekly shows booked, then and you choose one, you'll go to the next weekly show. If, say, you've got 2 weekly shows booked and you choose 3, then you'd go to the next end of the next monthly event to the next weekly show. And again, quality, standard, long-term, bizarro, terrible. And that would affect the quality. Long-term would be something where you want to build up younger stars. Standard, where you're not going to blow anyone away with gimmick matches or particularly high-ranked pairings. Bizarro, it will choose God knows what. And terrible, it will pick your worst workers and put them in the worst quality matches possible. Oops. So let's just book that terrible event and go on to the next one. Let's just book 4 months in advance, shall we? So we'll press that. And then we'll get onto the other buttons and get into deeper explanations of them. One, you see the news ticker telling you what's going on here. Fantastic match. Fans don't like Gato Gordo. Well, what do the fans know? With Black Bear Williams and Big Van Dan are back from their special segment injuries. Ray de los Sombros is signed with Pro Wrestling North America. That'll be interesting. And you'll notice here that the Grand Invitational has already been booked, and we'll touch on that one in another video as well. Another thing I should have mentioned previously is about tag team matches. If you happen to go into 2 versus 2 or 2 versus 3, etc., etc., if you are to book 2 individuals in a tag team match and have them win a championship title, I see the West Coast Tag Team Champions held by the Canadian Assassins, number 1 and 3, because WCWC is cheap. If you're going to book a couple of individuals to fight them and they were to win, they would become a permanent tag team. I'll demonstrate that after I've gone through all the other booking materials, as I've showed you before, how to book and how to make segments, and now I've explained to you the auto simulator and the auto booker. We can move on to other things like the roster, the company jobs, and we'll go on to those in just a second. And next, let's move on to the roster button. See, first button will give you an overview of the roster itself. And see another drop-down menu that let's pretend that you can actually read what it says. You can choose to cycle through main eventers, champions, upper mid-carders, lower mid-carders, jumperonis, managers if you have any, which we do not, tag teams. As you can see, as I told you earlier, Reco Ramos and Idaho Joe Martin managed to win the tag team titles, and the game has created them as an actual roster tag team now, which saves you some creative points to making them yourself. And let's just go back. You can see the options here. You can change their name, you can change their alignment, you can change their brand, if you have any brands. You can choose to disband a team, but if they have a title, it may not let you, as you can see. You can choose to fire them, or you just go back. Another thing, if you happen to have a tag team that you disband, it will automatically create a feud between the former partners. And then you can also filter the roster by all, by the he, by the she, by the they pronouns, faces or heels or neutral, oh my. If they are unhappy, you can see who immediately is there, who it might be a part-timer, and who happens to be injured at the moment. Poor Naruki. Oh my goodness, that's gotta hurt. You can look up other teams in this drop-down menu, or other teams, other companies. I'm a professional, you see. Currently, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 other companies available. Let's look up Prairie Pro Wrestling, where the Clark family has been a wrestling tradition in Canada for over 20 years. So you can also filter them. You'll notice that you could go by he, you could go by face, you could go by unhappy, part-timers, injured. None of them are injured. A benefit of knowing when someone is unhappy is they might be easier to snipe from another team or another company. Yes. Okay, so let's go to our roster overview again and see if we have any room on our roster for any. No, we do not. So that's too bad. So let's go to another company. 35 years into the future, West Coast Wrestling Coalition, eventually becoming Pacific Coast Championship Wrestling. Anyway, so let's look at the roster size. Now, look at another company and see if they have any unhappy workers. No, no, and no, no. Give me a second, I'll just find one. Hold on. Okay, here's another company that I had created earlier from a draft roster that I made, and we are going to see we've got enough space on our roster to fill that up. So let's check another company to see if they have anyone unhappy that's looking to move shop. No. Here we go. Jacko Scald. Hey, Jacko, want to come work for me? So you click on his name. He doesn't have to be unhappy, but this is just for demonstrating purposes. He's going to leave them in about 5 months. So that might mean he'll take a lower offer than the scout recommends. So starting at, instead of 250, let's say 200 creative points. And no, a bit too low for him. Okay, let's try the 250 that the scout recommends. Still too low. Okay, fine. I will give you double that. 500 creative points. What do you say, Jacko? Okay. Jacko's going to join us. Now you have two options. You can bring him to the main roster if you've got the creative points and the urge to do so. Or if you do not send him to the main roster, they will instead go to your training roster. So let's send him off to the training roster. If you change your mind, you've got until the end of this booking period to go back and change that by adding that. So we've looked at other things we can do with the roster overview. Also notice down here, workers that are retired and future workers that in various years will be coming along and joining your roster. Then they will show up in your training roster when the time comes. Oh, we've got someone unhappy over here, isn't that unhappy? So back to our company. You can say it's much smaller because it's much smaller. So other things you can do. With the team button, you can either look at in existing teams, and in these teams, you can choose to change the name of the team. You can change the alignment of the team if both of the members of the team currently have the same alignment. Changing the name, and like this. Change the alignment. You can heal to face to neutral. If they're the same alignment that you select, it'll say you can't do that. And there is a small creative point cost for any changing of alignments. In fact, everything you do in the menus here usually has a small cost. You can also choose to disband a team. If you do that, it will create a feud between the two team members. And you'll see the team is now gone. If you wish to add a new team, you can also do that. You make it a trio, make it a tag team. You just go to the drop-down menus that are alphabetical by the name of the character. Let's go with the first class male and Max Bigger, and we'll call them Big Boys. See, that's a play on both their names, you see. And you add that at a small cost of 20 creative points. And you've got a new tag team. You can look at other companies' tag teams as well. Say All American Pro Wrestling has their own tag team that you might want to try and snatch. Like, say, for example, Kathy Wilkes and Joe Couture. Let's see if we can convince them to come over. Their asking price is $12.75. Let's see if they consider going for $1,200. They would not. How about $1,300? Better. Okay. Moving right along. That's how the tag team menu works. Factions. If you happen to have an existing faction, you'll see them here, or you can add one at a small cost. Create a new faction here. Boys and men. You can add the mailman. Buffalo Joe. And let's add some girls to the group just to make it make no sense at all. Let's go with Pecos Joe and L Cowgirl, because they are neither boys nor men, but everyone can be whatever they want. And you can select a leader of the faction if you want. Let's have the leader of the boys and men is obviously the Cowgirl. And there's a new faction. You can look at other factions. If you're so inclined, you can decide that this faction, maybe it needs a new leader or it doesn't need a leader anymore. So Herschel, you're no longer the leader of that. In fact, why don't we get rid of this faction altogether? Goodbye, Humperdinck Inc. It was nice knowing you. And that's what you can do with factions. You can look up other companies' factions if they happen to have one. Titanic Total Wrestling has the Ming Dynasty, run by Mr. Ming, notoriously evil and nefarious fellow that he is, and his revolving door of lackeys. And you can go to managers. You can see it's Herschel Humperdinck managing over here. I've showed you in previous videos how managers can help you benefit from match and from segments. Let's see if any other company has managers right now. Great Lakes as well as Troy. Pro Wrestling North America has several managers. And then over to the Indies. This is people that are available but are not currently booked to any company. And you'll notice here, coming up in a future update, they've added a filter for it, so a lot of you are going to be very excited when that is unlocked. If you'd like to get early access, you should join the Patreon for Mahin. I've got the link in the comments. So you can separate by age, popularity, name, work rate, morale. You notice it goes on down here. No one is currently available to sign. So now, if there is no one to sign, you go down here and you have an option to either have your staff scout scout them, and that'll just give you 1 month's time. It'll give you what their basic information is. Let's have Bruce scout Zarina Mendoza. And then have Marcel Pastel. We'll try and recruit him with our other scout, Ed Nelson. And recruiting is an attempt to make them available to sign, which will their name will pop up here. And then you can make them offers like you did with the unhappy workers from the other companies. Again, they don't have to be unhappy. I was just doing that to demonstrate. And the final option in the roster menu is to trade. I mean, you can offer your workers to different companies. I think an all-ladies company, if they happen to have any men on the roster, will have no use for them. So let's see if goodness, I love this new feature so very much. Let's go with Michael Laurentian, who will one day be known as Meltdown, but this is 1983, and it's a long time ago. So let's select him. I have to remind myself, Kitty Stallone actually identifies as female, so I should probably change that in a future update for TTW 1989. Now, you select whom you're going to trade for. So I think that Cosmonauta would be much happier over there than with us. She's an over-the-top gimmick, and that's what Lamb loves. So select. Now, you've got your offer against their offer. You'll notice here it gives you such things as what can affect the chances of the trade being made. Michael is very low pop and low ability. Cosmonauta is one of our top stars, so odds are they will accept it. You can choose to keep them for 1 month. You can keep them for 3 months. Or you can have it be a permanent trade. Shall we make it permanent? Yes. And as I mentioned, we'll see if that trade went through. Since we're up to it anyway, let's check out the mailbox here. The trade was accepted. In the mailbox, you will see messages about everything, about messages from your owner. It'll tell you that you can upgrade the training facility, or that you managed to meet one of his goals for the year. I'll get to those in a minute. And other goals, well, have you done these yet? I say, no, I haven't. I just started. You can messages from your various staff, the management staff telling you someone has left, the scout telling you that Jen Camaro is available if you look her up in the Indies. The talent management will tell you that you disappointed a cowgirl by not meeting one of her requests, etc., etc. Also tell you when a worker is cleared to work again after an injury. Oh, and a trainer will tell you when the trainer has been done training. And that's all good and well. And then messages from superstars, they might be asking you for things or telling you don't want things, or they might have nothing to say at all, which is also probable. And after you've read all the ones that you want to delete, the ones you've read already, you can delete them. If you want to delete all of the messages, fly by the seat of your pants, you can also delete all of the messages. Anyway, back to the roster. Let's look up this new guy that we've got, that we just traded for. That's this is Michael Laurentian. And here is various things you can do in the roster page. As I said, in the future, he's going to go by the name Meltdown. So why don't we make that feature now? There's all this other things you can learn. His traits, his gimmick, his current XP level, all of this various things. You'll notice also there's his various appearances. That's what he might look like in the future. So it's good to have that as a third alternate attire. So let's change his gimmick. Instead of Future Meltdown, let's call him now Nuclear Warrior. And you are now Meltdown. And we can, what alignment? Let's make him a heel to start with. We can change his appearance if we so desire. As I taught you last time, you can search up existing graphics or you can make some for yourself. I think he needs a little bit of happy face paint. There, that looks like a Meltdown kind of guy, don't you think? And I think the elbow pads kind of clash, so let's get rid of those. And maybe a little bit jazzier torso outfit. Let's go for... No, that's been done. Here we go. Red to match his bottoms. And some black and some white to trim it. Yeah, all right, good to go. Welcome to the roster Meltdown. Change. And that's not debuted yet, so the next event that he's here, they will be able to debut that. So that's the roster done. Now on to the company. So these features are up for the company. And first is the events. It will tell you previous events that you've had and the synopsis of them going back. These are previous weekly shows, previous monthly shows. Look at various other companies' monthly shows. You can go by year as well. Now here you see, you can look at the calendar as well, so you can see which month you are in. And you can use that to immediately jump back to a previous event that you want to look at the stats of. Say the Power Struggle of 1984, that was a great match. Buffalo Joe defeated the champion. La 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 la. And you can also look up other companies' previous events. Say, how did Big Shot Wrestling do in 1983, January? And let's find out. January 1983, Durante retained the world title over Firebird Bobby Rich. That was cool. Hey, what did the poster look like? Well, good question. You can look at the posters from the previous events as well. There was Big Shot's New Year's event from that year. You can download it. You can just go back. Now you'll notice, because you're a sharp-eyed kind of person, that weekly shows do not have a poster. The next thing is feuds. Any existing feuds that you have, it will give you an update on what their heat is, how many you have got active, if they are hot, how long they've been going. You can look up potential feuds. For example, that team that I broke up earlier, they have not yet triggered the feud, but the feud selling out is a potential feud that can happen. If you wish, you can decide that a feud's gone on too long and it's just not doing you any good anymore. You can elect to end the feud. And you can look at previous feuds as well here. And say, when did that happen? That was an absolute train wreck. I'm so glad we didn't do it a month ago. And you can filter it by date, by hype, by duration. Again, this is another new feature, very good. You can choose to create a feud right here. There's a small creative point cost to that, as usual. So let's make a new feud between, let's go with our cowgirl and her stablemate, Pecos Joe. And you can choose what the feud will be about. They've had a previous feud, so this one is unlocked, and you can choose that. That's my title, if one of them's a title holder and the previous person had it. And then there's the regular generic ones, better wrestler. If they're someone grayed out, if they're, say, both they were baby faces, you could choose friendly contest. If one of them ribbed another in a backstage event, you read about those in the news ticker. There could be the no more jokes. If you used fight in the darkness from a vicious beatdown face heel turn, and various other gimmicks that are also locked. As you can see, there is quite a lot of them. I'll touch on all of the feuds in a future video as well, maybe, if I remember. Oh, I forgot to actually choose. Okay, we're going to make them rivals because they feuded before. And on to titles. You can view the various title information here. I believe I've touched on this already in the titles video. Add, vacate, retire. And you can also rebrand a title. Say, for example, the Power Team Champions. Let's call it the Power Tag Team Championships. Now, you notice we don't have a high enough facility for production, so we cannot change the gimmick for it. But if we did, we certainly could. There's no brand. And let's add some new side plates for that. Make it look like a Contenders title. Okay, rebranded. You notice the prestige for a rebranded title goes down, which is fine. I'm just doing this to show you how to do it. You can look at other companies' titles as well, and you can look at their title history as well. The best match, Wayne Carson against Buster Morgan. That was a real barn burner. There's various title histories. And you can look up your own title histories as well, of course. It was just Keith Cruz, Crusher Dan Kroll, and just Buffalo Joe until the Mass Demolisher came along and ruined his picnic. The rebranded title, notice it will still be there, and will go by the previous names in the previous matches won. And that's all that for the title menu. You can look up matches. You can look at the existing gimmick matches that you have. You can choose to remove them. If you're sick of the auto booker making everything a hair versus hair match, for example, you can remove it once and for all. And go back. You can add your own gimmick match as well. Let's say lap and tickle fight. You can choose to make that a normal match, an elimination match, a battle royal, a best 2 out of 3 falls match, a special referee match. Let's make that an elimination match. You can choose the match boost of low, medium, high, and highest, which will increase, of course, the ratings boost. The popularity boost is similar. The risk of injury can be increased or decreased. And there's a choice of consequences. You can choose the cash-in contract, a fixed match contract. The cash-in contract has a certain amount of time that it will last for, and you can cash that in title matches, either during an event or just at the beginning of an event with the booking screen. A fixed match contract is fixed for a specific event, and you'll choose that when you book the match. Loser unavailable. The loser of the match won't be available for a certain amount of time, usually a couple of months. The hair versus hair option, or the loser has their hair removed. Random opponent, if you want to create your own type of open challenge match. You can remove a mask if it's one of those luchos apuestes. You can remove mask or hair, so it could be a hair versus mask. You can add hair if you happen to have a particularly bizarre craving for that kind of match. And you can also add graphics to the match as well. You could add a ladder in the background, either black ladder, gray ladder, orange ladder. You can add a cage background, gray, red, retro blue, retro black. You can add tables, chairs, and chairs, and ladders, ambulance, barbed wire ropes, casket, grave, a parking lot with a bunch of cars, or you can absolutely have nothing. You can also opt to add random weapons being held by the participants of the match. So the slap and tickle fight is the loser has hair added to their head and they have weapons. Why not? And the amount of ups and downs you create here affects the price of the match itself. And well, let's just forget that. I'm not going to spend all that on that. That's how you create matches. You can see right now where the ranking of the match is. As they get higher in prestige, the ratings of it can go up, the chance of injury can go down, and the amount of fatigue that a worker gets when they compete in the match can also go down. Over to segments. These are the segments that exist. You can choose to edit a segment if you happen to have one. I happen to have some custom segments, and I'll show you more about those in the future. You can choose to edit them if you so desire. Let's go with the misting attack. You can edit it. And here you'll find the editing stage, and you can alter variables. Like for example, you can have a blinding green mist, or an orange mist, or a black mist, because you can have variable options of outcomes. But again, let's talk about custom segments in another video. Go to the brands. If you happen to have any brands, you would be looking at them here. We don't have one. Let's look at a company that does have brands, if any. Global has the Titans and the Megastars. You can look over who they have, and you can see a summary of which events they have and which championships they have. And the other side as well. No championships, 4 events. So that means all of the other events are shared by both of these companies. Now, suppose your company wants to create its own brand. You can add up to 2 at a time. Rather 3. You can add up to 3 brands. I've only been playing this game for 6 years. And in the creation of the brands, which we'll touch on in another video as well, you'll do that here in the brand screen. And that's it for the company tiles. We'll move on to the next one in a moment, the job. Creative points were getting a bit thin with that other company, so let's look at the job in December 1989 with Wrestling World Cup. The job button gives you the options of looking at what the owner's goals for the year are. Thusly, I've already completed 2 of them. If you get all 3 of them, you get a creative point bonus at the end of the year with the boss, and you also can get a bonus match and additional artifacts. I'll show you that in a moment as well. So, if you meet all the owner goals for the year, he'll give you a bonus. He'll give you a special match. This year was the concrete cage. Very exciting. And you'll also notice that you unlocked a few artifacts by getting all of the owner goals done in that year. Training, the roulette, and the styles change. All very fun. Staff notifications here. Anyway, where was I? Yes, job. So after the goals, and then the next year he'll give you new goals. So that's a never-ending struggle. Activity, you can see what you've done recently. Have you done any signings? No. Who did you last call up? Martin Just. Oh yeah, let's go to the dashboard. Also on the dashboard is your every 6 months you get a free call up. So let's call up whoever is available right now. Let's go with the future of the company, El Bandito 3. That's what I tell everyone. It's not actually true. Activity, so call ups El Bandito. Releases none. Trade deals none. On trade none. Events rebranded none. None. Let me just say, if you did all of those things, it would be much fuller. And you can look at your competitors here. That's us. You have the option in the company's menu to rename the company. Eventually, Wrestling World Cup did rename itself Wrestling World Superstars. So let's do that. Yeah, Superstars, funny. Let's call that now. Poof. We're now Wrestling World Superstars. Look at us go. If you're done with this company, you can instead choose to form a new company. Again, that's another video for another time. If another company down here happens to be struggling, you might find that they're available for sale. Buyout is another thing we will deal with in the future. None of them are available for a buyout right now anyway. After companies, you can look at fan history. That gives you bar graphs of the various companies and their all-time ability and gain or loss of fans or viewers for their weekly shows, or how many buys they've got for their monthly events. Ours have taken a huge dip, probably from my stellar booking. The fan change over time. Again, I don't know what I did in March, but it definitely wasn't my best outing. And the star rating of the matches themselves. You'll notice it is kind of skewed because WWC, or now WWS, has always been a little bit further ahead of the curve because it's got much higher fan base when you start the game. Let's remove them from the equation and see what the graph looks like for star ratings. Still pretty even. Fan change without us in the mix, you'll notice it gets a little bit longer. You can also choose to narrow your search of the bar graph. Past 3 months, it's been a little bit less obvious. You see these here. We'll give you an actual synopsis over time. It's very fun and good. If you want to show all of the companies, that'll make a huge mess. Bam! But look at them all. You can hide all of them. There's a graph with nothing. I hope you found that very useful. Just a single company. Consuelo, Lucha Libre, they have had their ups and downs in the past 3 months. But over all time, they've been even worse. Oh dear. And that's what the fan history does. You can look at the history itself. You can look at your company's stats, what you've done in the last lifetime of the company. You can also choose to look at it specifically by brand. In Conflict, T-Bone Jones rules the roost. Hostile, it's all Sam Hill. Altogether, the owner's son, what a shock. He's pushed as the top guy. Jim Black is the most over right now. Top heel, top face. Iconic teams, iconic factions, and championship is the best one here. Your best events over time. The best event that you had, your signature event, one of the most buys, most viewers of your weekly shows, the best matches you've had in the past, best segments, any special segments that you happen to use, the top feuds you had, top moments that you've had in the past. I remember that was such a thing to do. Any shocking turns you might have. We'll touch on that later. Any awards that you've won, good or bad. You can see who your top retired workers are. Little bits of slice of life fluff, like the only ones who ever beat Sam Hill. Lots of people, most world titles, Sam Hill, most titles, Richard Del Rio, longest reign, shortest reign, greatest and ever. She's retired, so of course she's never going to win the big one. I might bring her back one day with an artifact, who knows. I shouldn't be so unkind. Most this, most that, most everything. Greatest to never turn, most foods at one time. Moira, you could do a lot better. I'm disappointed. The longest gimmick, the shortest gimmick. You'll see these are only gimmicks that you've created, not from the initial starting gimmicks. I've only changed one gimmick so far. Other history options, the rankings for the current year and all time. The current year is just rolled over, so no one has any records at all by any company. Oh, I should mention. In the stats, you can look at other companies' stats as well. Who won that elusive Match of the Year award, I wonder? Not them. CSDLL? Nope. Anyway, that's an aside. Rankings, you can look at them now or ever and separate them by gender, pronoun, single or tag team. Best tag team of all time for us was Wally Flowers and Showtime. And by a brand as well, you can separate it. The top 50 for the last year, if you've happened to have it run yet. This year's top 50, again, Sam, golden boy at the top. And as you go along, you can look up previous years as well. Currently, you only have 1989. You can look up previous tournament grand invitationals, which we'll deal with in the future. You can see Misery won the first one this year, and it even has previous posters you can look up. The always popular circle poster. And you can look up previous tournaments you had, like, for example, the Iron Man tournament. You can look here in the details. I believe I touched on that in the tournament videos, so we'll move right along. The always popular Other. You can look at the staff that you have. Staff have different roles in your company. Doctors, you can help use to, you can say, you can look up your doctor, you can change their name, their appearance, you can change their pronoun, you can fire them. A doctor you can use to, if they're higher level, can help rehab an injured worker so that they can get back on their feet sooner. And producers, you can also, they would give you better quality segments and matches if you put them on focus. Scouts, as I showed you, can recruit or scout workers, and they can tell you when available workers have come. Trainers, you won't believe this, they train your workers. Got Mohit Moore, lovely fellow, getting near the age limit though, so I'm going to let him go and see if we can hire someone else. Bye-bye, Mohit. It was fine knowing you. So we only have level 1 training facility, so we can only hire level 1 trainers, if any. And there's one. It's the guy we just fired, so we'll go with Damien Lopez instead, a much younger age of 58. Hey, Damien, you work for us now. Back. And talent managers, they can be used to help unlearn certain traits, such as being a troublemaker, or you can also use them to reassure unhappy workers. Do that back in the roster page. Let's see if we have anyone that's unhappy right now. Nope, but they might be lower morale, so let's find someone at random that's low on the card. Maybe Ulf Lowenhertz. Fairly happy, but he could be happier. Let's reassure Ulf, shall we? Yes. I want to demonstrate how to train as well. Jason Carter, he's good, but he could be better. So let's train his work rate. Train, work rate, trainer, and go. And back to the staff. And that's how staff work. You'll notice that the guy we just hired is right at the very tippy bottom of XP, whereas the talent manager, who's been dealing with a lot of talent requests, has been getting passive XP even when he's not reassuring. And Dr. Reassuring, or rather evaluating sick workers and keeping an eye on them, will also get them more XP. Produces when they produce, scouts when they scout. You get the picture, I hope. Now, facilities is where they work, and that affects the quality of the staff's output. A medical facility, if you develop it, can improve to thus, and if you advance even further, it can do that. We happen to not meet the requirements. We have not recovered 5 injuries. We have not scouted 8 different workers, so we cannot yet upgrade the scouting facility. From there, you can get better views of workers that are in the Indies immediately. Production, the same thing. You can unlock certain match events. You can unlock that you can modify titles for gimmicks. And you can get new match finishes as well if you can upgrade that. Training, how quickly someone can train. And talent management, you can also use that for guaranteed appearances for your part-time workers. If they've got a higher level than 1, they will have a minimum number of appearances that all your workers will appear for. Some will even come for more. And then at level 3, that's when you can start acquiring other companies, which again, as for another video, as is the actual staff facilities. Artifacts, another big deal that we'll be touching on in better details in the future. These are the ones that we got from doing so well with the owner goals. And eventually, you'll notice they are all available to understand what they are, because I managed to unlock them all. But they're currently not available because in this game, you have not yet earned the right to use them. Artifacts, we will touch on a lot more in an upcoming video as well. I can only make 1 or 2 a week. I apologize. Special segments, another thing that we'll touch on. These ones are the particular, they can get unlocked. And each one has a drawback in that you might cause the workers to be unhappy when you use it. It might make a worker unavailable for a short period of time. It might be a controversial segment that loses you creative points. Or you might be something that just has a random staff member unavailable. It's better for you to unlock them and discover them for yourself. And there we have it, is the entire how to use the dashboard of the Journey of Wrestling user interface. I hope you found this useful. Oh, there's one final one you need to use, and that is the menu, which gives us the menu buttons. The continue option is where you add an existing save, be it in your computer's memory or in the cloud. You can choose to import. You get a maximum of 10 cloud saves at one time. And I'll import this one with the sandbox mode so I can do some extra features that I don't have to worry about unlocking in the future. So that'll take a moment to load, and now it's available. You can go to your other cloud saves. Now that I've uploaded it here, I don't want it in the cloud anymore. Am I sure? Sure, I'm sure. New game is where, from the original one, I showed you how to start a game. You can choose the official or the community. Always popular modern wrestling. Dawn of WrestleMania. Cannot recommend it enough. Wonderful by CM Dawn. But all of his stuff, if you ever look up any of the Dawn of, great stuff. But I digress. Community is where you can create your own scenario. You can look up community graphics, as I demonstrated previously. You can look up community segments that have been done. You can look up your own. You can choose to copy one. That way you can make your own segment. You can make your own segment here on the community screen. You can only do that in the game itself. Again, I'll show you how to do custom segments in a future video as well. The leaderboard, see who's done what the most and when. Most edits, most scenarios created, most graphic recommendations, community segment recommendations, and a link to the Discord, which I cannot recommend enough as well. It's a wonderful place, except for this one mod called Showtime. Leave him alone. Options, you can help with such features as how to deal with superstar morale, what are the traits and what do they mean, as we've explored previously. What is event hype? What is faction rep? What is talent requests? Those are talent requests. And other things in the option. User info, I'm not going to show you that. Thank you anyway. The settings, you can choose to go light or dark mode. Brace yourself. Boom! Supernova. You can increase or decrease the volume or choose to have it off or on altogether. Very jaunty. Sound effects. You can go windowed or full screen. And zoom in or out for your own particular need. And colorblind mode, which is another helpful feature for those who are colorblind. And you can reset them back to the previous default settings as well. And with the newest update, it's in early access right now, this can now be fixed. So you can choose to have it windowed at all times when you log in or out. So, and about the game itself, an absolute wonderful thing. And links to the Reddit, to the Discord, and the privacy policy. And as you see, the logo was done by WenArt, in case you were curious. And then the best button of all is to exit. Oh, just in case you were curious, the winner of that Grand Invitational was our very own Big Brother Lane. Didn't he do well? Very nice. Well done. And we even got ourselves an achievement for that, for doing it without a bribe. I'll have to touch on that again in the future. And that is how to JoW and all of the user interfaces. I hope you didn't find the video far too long or rambling, as I tend to do both.